BYDFi is a crypto exchange on desktop and mobile where you can spot trade, futures trade, use leverage tokens, and copy the trades of top traders. If you sign up with the link in the description, you get a free $100 when you deposit $100. There's hundreds of crypto available on their spot exchange, as well as a free test account so you can practice futures trading without getting wrecked. BYDFi. Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's have a look at, first of all, the boring stuff, Forex, futures, S&P, blah blah blah. We'll start with S&P on the 4-hourly futures chart. So we're coming down to a 50 exponential moving average, basically one portion of a golden cross retest. It could potentially come down a little further. The exact wick hit the 50 simple moving average. I'm not particularly bearish on the stocks at the moment. I don't really have a strong opinion, but it doesn't look either bullish nor bearish. But if we had to really, I suppose, speak what the chart is saying, it's probably more bullish than bearish. And with that, should expect a bit of a bounce around these areas. Now, if we take it to a daily, just very briefly, we can see that obviously the divergences between the 200 and the 50 are quite pronounced, really, and all moving averages outside of the 7 simple is below us, and we're catching a bounce already just on the daily 10, the 10 exponential. So stocks seem okay. Things would change and flip around to go particularly bearish below 4,450. So that is the boring old S&P there, and again, it's just a futures pre-market. Right, so let's have a look at Dixie. Dixie still wanting to move up to 105.3. Probably see a rejection around there. It's a strong chart. No golden crosses, not quite yet. Nothing like that on the higher term time frames, but the 4-hourly obviously has been going from strength to strength with a classic retest to the 200 simple exponential moving average, and the simple was back down here as well. So it all looks quite good for continuation on the Dixie until we reach this level. That's where we can probably expect a rejection and a bit of upside across the board. Now, oil obviously peaked yesterday, still continuing to come down this morning. We'll be looking to see if we get support around 85, 82. This is on US oil here. If that breaks down from there, then we're probably looking for an entry point around 83.60 or thereabouts, roughly speaking. We did have some overheated money flow index with one single drive of bearish divergence, which is why I think that we might see a temporary bounce here with another move up higher, and if we can confirm a second drive of bearish divergence, that'd be pretty good for a bigger pullback in the context of an uptrend. So just remember that. Okay, so now we're above 83. We should really expect 93 at some point before we start breaking down below here. So not majorly, well, not bearish at all really. Not been bearish on this one for a little while now. And this has been my biggest concern for all markets. I know people will be looking at the Dixie and things like that, but my main concern is oil, because that will give us higher CPI reads later on in the fourth quarter probably. Right, so all of that out the way. Actually, just very briefly on gold. Gold 4-hourly below all major moving averages. Looking for a bit further pullback on gold. But to be fair, on the daily, I'd be looking for support to be gained around 1914, 1915 thereabouts. Basically, a 20 simple moving average on the daily. Should be expecting some kind of reaction around there. If you fail to see that, then there is the 1910. So there is possibility for futures trades around here. The money flow index is quite high. It's not massively high, but it's relatively high. So any position on this one should be thought of as trading within this triangle formation. So wherever the bounce takes us, at least put your stop losses in profit, if they get in profit at all. If you get stopped out, it doesn't take long to know if you're wrong. So that's all I've really got to say about all of that. Right, let's get on to, well, we'll just quickly look at Bitcoin, but the main thing is I'm talking about Ethereum, really, in a potential alt season. And I know that's what my thumbnail will say, something like that. It's kind of it feels like clickbait, but you just got to bear with me and you'll see what I'm saying. Doesn't mean that there's going to be an alt season. It says that potentially could be an alt season. That's all I'm saying. Right, so if we look at Bitcoin, we're still hanging down, sort of dribbling down, basically, with a view to move down towards the lower 25,000s. We're still intact with the bullish divergence on the RSI there on the daily, and on the 4-hour we've still got the bullish divergence on the RSI here as well. If we fanny around sideways, staying above 25,150 or something like that, then there is a chance that bullish divergence will play and could take us up for a decent bounce. The bounce basically maybe even to the lower 27,000s. We've been having that on our cards for a little while. We don't have death crosses on Bitcoin, not yet. Doesn't mean that we won't, but we don't have it yet. Thinking about where the all the other markets sit, so oil being, like I say, a bit of a concern looking forward, into the next quarter, but towards the end of the year. But Mostly Dixie, really. If we see a Dixie break above those levels, that 105.3, then yeah, that's likely going to take all markets down to continue with a consolidation, which has been, to be fair, relatively overdue. If you look at something like the S&P, the Nasdaq, all those sort of things, they've been rallying almost for a year. Which a year ago, when I said that that's a likely possibility, yeah, people found it very hard to imagine. But it's been what's happening since then. And in all fairness, I did catch the low on that one. I did say about it. So look, I'm not saying it's going to come back down to those levels. I really don't think so. I think it's just going to be a series of higher highs, higher lows throughout traditional markets, well, S&P, Nasdaq, and Dow Jones. But individual stocks can get absolutely wrecked. Right. So we're looking at this to probably move and meander down, and maybe even hit this at some point before we have a major reaction. But we don't really care about Bitcoin because I'm talking about potential alt seasons, and the alt season is going to be bittersweet if we get one. So, the talk of the town is the Ethereum death cross, right? That's what everybody's been talking about. Oh, the death cross, the death cross. And death crosses are never good, nor they're the opposite of a golden cross. If we measure where the 200 exponential is on this daily, it's an 8% move up, and the simple moving average is 10.5% move up. Now, just like you get golden cross retests after the golden cross, so there's your golden cross took place, and what the hell happened here? Dumped right down into a simple moving average. That's counter to what most people would think. Hang on a minute, I thought these were meant to be bullish. They are bullish, right? They are bullish as far as trend, but they're not a signal in themselves. So what we've seen here is a death cross on exponentials and simples over here, and we've not had any kind of follow through. That's no big deal. Normally what you'd expect to see is a move similar to what you'd happen with a golden cross. So dump down into it, take your positions, and ride it up towards the top. You know, that's normally the way. So if that's the case, last time we got a golden cross on simple moving averages, we retested it around here, and then we went all the way back up here, and then retested it once again to form a lower high, and here we are today. So my theory, based on obviously statistical likelihood, would be that at some point soon we do actually move into that to stack the shorts, or to test to see if it really is bearish, right? That's normally the case, right? Exactly as we would when we play longs, we play shorts in the same way, and we stack them at appropriate positions. Now, to expect an aggressive move up towards the top of here being 10% would actually cause a decent alt season of sorts. 10% move on Ethereum might equate to a 20% or more move on some of the lower caps, medium caps, or basically anything below Ethereum, which is everything. So that is likely. It is likely, but the problem that we'll have is, where does that start from? Does it start from here, or does it start from lower? Given the pronounced divergence here on the way down, this could happen, quite a bit of a drop down. We could see 1550, or even lower. And so long as the bullish divergence is intact, we could be bouncing from there, which means that the lower we go, the more significant the bounce, because we measured up the top side of the move here, which would be, 10.5% move if it were to do it today. The lower we go, the bigger the move, and I suppose the larger the gains would be if you were to be able to navigate that bottom or that low before the springboard back up into those zones. And it could start from today. So like I say, I'm not saying that this is a definite possibility, like it's definitely going to happen, but I think it is relatively likely to expect that to happen, and all it's going to be is a series of lower highs and probably lower lows. So it's just an opportunity that sits there, and like I say, death crosses do provide continuation in the form of a trend, but they also offer upside to confirm the death cross as a real thing. So it is going to be the same thing over here for Bitcoin, but there is no death cross here, so we could avoid this and create a bear trap if the whole market was to do it. If we were to start making closures above 27,300, and we'd have to do it probably this week now, you'd probably call that a bear trap if we maintained that level and went higher, and that would be even more of a bear trap for Ethereum, because like I say, if you break through a death cross and continue up, then absolute wrecked city. Think about it as well like this. So there's a lot of people stacking shorts already because the whole world appears to be pretty bearish. Spent a bit of time on YouTube and Twitter yesterday, which I don't normally spend that much time on it listening to crypto stuff, but everybody was bearish. everybody was bearish. And I imagine that shorts have been stacking significantly, especially after the death cross here, because a lot of the time that's how people like to trade these things. They don't wait for the right opportunity and trade it when you move into it. They trade it on the cross itself. So that's not usually the right way to go about it. Although you might be lucky, that's not a good entry. As you can see, if you traded the golden cross around here, you would have traded this here, and then before you would have had to sustain and probably get liquidated, you know, rather than made gains. It's just the nature of it. And again, over here as well, after the exponential golden cross. So Rekt City comes to those who are impatient with their entry points. So that's all I really got to say about those two charts. Again, it's just an observation. We'll finish off by looking at the Bitcoin dominance, which again, you can interpret this in two ways, the Altseason way or the absolute Rekt City way. So basically, this is a bullish chart. We can see this golden cross all the way back up here, going on for higher highs, higher lows the entire way. And we've been consolidating for a prolonged period of time, really. So the peak was in around June 27th of June, and we've been sort of consolidating since then. We're below all major moving averages outside of the 200 simple and exponential, where you'd expect to see a decent reaction. That sits down here at 48.35. Give or take, roughly. We're looking at both of them and merging them together. Look, if we move down into these levels, you would expect a bounce, to be honest with you. That's normally the rule of thumb. It's the opposite of what we've been talking about with death crosses, where you'd take shorts. You'd be looking to take longs on anything that moved into a golden cross retest. This actually would be the first time we hit an exponential or a simple of that size since it happened. But if you were to break that, it would be pretty significant, and then you would likely see an Altseason all the way down to 44% dominance and probably towards 40, which is a significant low, back down to the lows. You know, the RSI, the money flow index on this chart is not as relevant as it would be on any other type of chart, because this is just it's the dominance chart. It's not an actual. I suppose you can trade it, I think, on some exchanges, but it's not a tradable chart. So, but what we do see is one drive of bullish divergence already, just a single drive, which leads me to believe that we probably would bounce from here. I'm just putting it to you though that if we didn't bounce and we broke down, this would be equivalent and probably happening at the same time as the death cross invalidation on Ethereum. So either way, whichever way you cut it, I think it's more likely, we're more likely to see an 8 to 10% bounce on Ethereum, which is likely to carry altcoins, maybe not from today, but at some point soon, from the next low, for instance, as long as we maintain that bullish divergence on the RSI on Ethereum. And from what I saw last night on the Patreon live stream, the majority of altcoins had that, or at least the decent ones had that. So there is an argument to say that we go up with a decent bounce before we go down again. And the dominance chart, you know, whether you look at this in a bullish or a bearish light, a retest of a golden cross does mean further downside, and that means upside for alts, generally speaking. It's only when we get to this level we have to get ready to change our underpants, because it gets a little bit of a squeaky bum time around this level. Because if we break this absolute carnage for the dominance chart and epic gains for altcoins, just in this sideways market right now, kind of feels a little skeptical that that's going to happen, but it's worth pointing out that there's two reasons to believe an Altseason of small proportion is likely. But let's just be careful around this exact level. Right, that's basically all I've got to say about that. I'm going to try and make 2 videos a day today, so at some point, please let me know in the comments if there's any altcoins specifically that you want me to look at, and if there's something worth talking about, I'll say it. Otherwise, I hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.